so many patterns built in, the Scan and Cut SDX 230Di is the perfect place to create some Disney fun. I am going to be working with a Lion King pattern, altering it a bit, and making a fun mixed media card. The first thing we're going to do is locate the pattern we want, and in this case, I want the Lion King Friends and the Sunset design. I'm going to size this down to be just slightly larger than the card base, which will be 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 that I'm going to be working on. And then I'm going to cut it out. Now, we can cut this out of absolutely any material. I'm just selecting the sun. That's all I am selecting here. And I'm going to move it a little more into the middle of the page, which will make sense once we have cut this out. Once this is cut out, and again, any material is fine. I'm just using a heavy cardstock in a color I happen to have a lot of. We're going to select the next part. Now, I'm not going to select these as they are because I actually want them to be a little larger than they are in this design. So I'm going back in, reselecting, and it did default to the size I had just created. I'm going to size it up about 1 inch. Now, this isn't going to size those patterns up by 1 inch. It's just going to size them up larger, as if the whole pattern was 1 inch larger. So it's just a little bit larger just because of my design and how I am creating. Then I'm going to individually select each of the 3 animal friends, and I'm going to cut these out of black vinyl, just a craft sticker vinyl that we can apply to the card nice and easy. For really fine designs like this, I love using vinyl in my card making. Lets me get really super intricate cuts and details, but also really easy to apply, and I don't have to worry about adhering. To prepare our card base, I have watercolor cardstock, and then I'm using my sun design. Remember, I said it could be any paper at all that you cut out. You could also cut out plastic or some kind of stencil template. And I'm just going to use some washi tape. Any masking tape or washi tape would be fine to adhere this to my surface. So I have watercolor cardstock, and then I will be using this as a stencil. Any combination of color mediums. In this case, I'm using water-soluble medium, so this is a watercolor pen. I will also use watercolor inks, oil pastels, anything that will blend together with water, I'm going ahead and using. And it will look very rough at first as you begin the blending process. It's not going to look beautiful yet, but as you continue to add colors and then in time start to add water, start to blend, you're going to get a very lovely look. Now, the way I am doing this, we are going to have some bleed over, and that's okay. And you'll see why in a moment when I lift this up. The key that I am doing here is really just getting that cool graphic sunset or sunrise look. And I'm putting more yellows in the middle, more darks on the edges to really give it a really pop of contrast and really stand out. You can do as much layering of color or as little. My one caution to you would be let the paper dry out. If you're going to do a lot of layers, let the paper dry out, give it a little rest between if you're going to go and go and go. In this case, I did this all in one shot because it really did work well, and I continue to blend with water, either a paintbrush with water or a water brush. Either will work equally well, and I'm lifting it off slowly to make sure I'm happy with everything, then lifting off. Now you can see there's a little bit where the spots bled through, but it's not a problem because all along I intended to just use water and a paintbrush or a water brush to put just a tiny bit of color in those in-between areas just to really bring home that sun effect. I just love how this looks. Really loose watercolor, really super easy, however you would like to do this. And this gives us so much color and design to our background without any layers. It's totally flat. And I love that about this card, that this card is going to be very easy to mail. Now I'm just taking that vinyl that we cut our characters out of and weeding it or removing all the excess vinyl. And I'm also going to take some gold watercolor and a paintbrush, and I'm just going to flick some gold drops on my background because this is just it's just another layer. It's going to give a little sparkle. It's going to be a little fun. And I'm going to let this dry out before we adhere our characters to the card. Now, one more step and back to the scan and cut. I'm going to go in the alphabets. I do love these alphabets. It makes it quick and easy when you just want a little simple card sentiment or a simple word. I'm typing out Hakuna Matata. After all, that is their signature phrase and song. And I'm going to go ahead and set. Then I'm going to go into edit and I'm going to size this down. I know I need it to be less than 5 inches wide. So however high that ends up being, that's just fine. I think it's going to be about 4/10 of an inch high and just a little under 5 inches wide. So that'll fit really nicely on my card. And then I'm going to go ahead and cut this out again out of black vinyl with these teeny tiny pieces and on a card. And when we're using watercolor mediums, those watercolor type mediums, they will keep reacting if you get them wet. So if I was to try to use liquid adhesive on an item and then glue it, we could have reactions. Whereas if I use sticker vinyl, which this is here, and again, we're going to just weed this off. By using the sticker vinyl, I eliminate the chance of bleeding or getting that watercolor or those oil pastels or anything wet again. Just works really well. So what do? Well, you guessed it. We put down our transfer tape and we rub nice and firmly for our characters as well as for our word. And if it's not sticking, just press back down and try again. Place things where you would like them to be, and then press nice and firmly and remove the transfer tape. The transfer tape means that you can move your designs really easily, really nicely, without having to worry about spacing or bubbles or any problems. Put it all together and yep, we have got one really fun card. Now, if you want a little extra detail, what I have done here on this one is to add a little bit of stitching around the edge. Machine stitching or hand stitching would work just for a little extra contrast and detail. Isn't that a fun card? Thank you so much for tuning in. Be sure to subscribe to the Brother channel so you don't miss any videos. We'll see you next time.